project manager's a little bit like bubbly and straight laced and friendly. And so when the Zoom thing says you're now recording, I always go, "Oh fuck!" So that's the first thing they can hear.
Way to go.
Mhm.
Uh, I feel like my head is too low. How's that? Now people can see my shirt.
Mm. Exactly.
It was a gift. I mean, people have known for years that I've been practicing my dad jokes.
Mhm.
Okay, so
You're very
just
loud, Conrad. You have
yeah,
Oh.
not
Conrad
loud,
just
but
got really
you're
loud.
like way clearer than we are.
I
Or,
oh uh what if I go like this? Is that less loud?
that helped, yes. Mhm.
Tell me, should I go even less?
Just a little tiny bit up.
Up?
That's good. Yeah.
Up. Okay, so now I'm talking, and I'm
And you sound the same as Scott, I think.
all right, but
Cool.
sexier, like same
Oh
volume.
yeah. Don't worry about that.
All right,
That's a
I mean,
given. Mhm.
man, I was doing the recordings for Bootstraps. We have a few lines, and one of the feedback sessions, when we showed it to some people, someone didn't like my voice, and one
Okay.
of our producers, trying to be helpful, was like, "We can get you voice lessons or do some sort of modulation to make you sound like you have more of gravitas." And I'm just like, "Stop
No.
helping, please. Stop
Mhm.
trying to be helpful. My feelings are already hurt enough."
Right.
All right, yeah, let's get going here.
All right, you posted everywhere.
Yeah, I just posted on Blue Sky and Twitter,
Okay.
and it's live streaming to Twitter too. But I shared the Riverside link this time, so hopefully that works better since there were issues with people interacting with us on YouTube. It seems. All right. Welcome to the Basic Income Show. I'm your host, Scott Santens, and I'm here with my friends and co hosts, Conrad Shaw and Josh Worth. And we're here to talk about just the latest developments in the world of universal basic income. And there's a lot to talk about that's happened since the last time we were here with you all. There was, there's a quick summary. There was the first country with a basic income, and there's a county that was the first county in the U.S. to permanently fund guaranteed income, and there's a bill advancing in Canada too, working its way through, and yeah, just so many things to talk about. So I hope everyone sticks around and watches us to learn all about
We got like a 5 hour broadcast we're gonna do here.
it.
And it's been a
Yeah, I don't
while,
think.
Hmm.
because partially my fault.
Yeah,
I can't.
Conrad, that's some personal news.
I canceled the last few because I have a baby. Um, we have a little girl that was born several weeks early. So now it's
Yay!
it's making me have deep
Congrats.
thoughts all the time. Thanks.
Hmm.
She's a cutie. But all of this work and trying to like fix the economy comes into clearer focus when you like get real about like what the hell is this kid supposed to do in 18 years? Like the kids today that are 18 don't know what the hell they're gonna do. So um, there's a little
First
extra.
question: have you set up your Trump account? That's
Is that something I have to
gonna be
set up?
your.
It doesn't just come to me
I
automatically as like a
think. I mean,
devoted
it should have
voter.
just arrived like at birth. You should have like received a
Yeah.
check along with the
we
baby.
we
Right?
are going to talk about that actually. I
Okay.
didn't want to talk about it first, but we're
Hmm.
definitely going to talk about like the details of the Trump accounts again, and the news about the Dell
Hmm.
um, and donation that came out yesterday.
You
Yeah,
know,
you
I
should have
I
gotten your money from Michael Dell, right?
I
You got
once
that. Yeah.
tried to convince Michael Dell at like some schmancy event I got snuck into. Andrew Yang snuck me into an event back in like 2018. They wouldn't let me in. It was like $4,000 a ticket in LA, but I knew he was going to speak there, and we were friends back then, or we are friends. And I said, can you sneak me in as part of your staff? And he told them I was like a bodyguard or something. And the guys with like the $4,000 wristbands for the fancy event like saw me come back to the table with him, and they were like glowering at me as they had to put the wristband on me. He just basically walked me in and said, "All right, go have fun." Like he knew I was trying to raise money for these projects, and he introduced me to Michael Dell, who I tried to pitch on UBI on our projects at the time, who basically seemed uninterested. But I think it's probably because of that meeting that he is now sort of arguably giving money towards a UBI-ish thing. Like I'm going to take some credit.
What it was all from. Yep.
But we'll get into the details. But amusingly, he's not going to give any money to you, Conrad, or your kid.
Right. It was stipulated in his big grant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
seriously though, you aren't going to get anything from Michael Dell.
Well, dang it. At least he's doing something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
He specifically designed it. He was like, okay, wait a second. I met this Conrad guy.
Not that guy.
He just had a baby, and we're going to make sure to exclude that baby.
Yeah. Can't wait to learn more.
All right. So let's start off with the biggest news first. This is just huge, monumental news. Like, just so big. And it's that the Marshall Islands just implemented the world's first basic income, universal basic income, full universal. It's really set up a lot like the Alaska dividend and that UBI there, but this one is actually a country doing it. It's a small country, but it is a full-on country doing this, and they could have done anything with their sovereign wealth fund, and they decided to purposely do this, like fully universal, every single person, child and adult, if you're a citizen resident of the Marshall Islands, you get this, and you get it every 3 months, and you'll keep getting it. It's permanent. It's permanent. Yeah. And but by permanent, I mean, sure, like they could decide to end it at some point. Like maybe they will decide they don't like it, or maybe they'll get convinced by like the IMF or something to target it. But for now, this is their plan, is to do fully.
There's no specific plan to end it at a certain time.
So, right.
I mean, we've talked about this for years. Is this where we like clink our glasses and stand over the Bellagio?
Yeah, I don't even think they had a horse on our little horse chart.
Right. They did not have a horse.
They came from out of nowhere.
Such a dark horse that they weren't even on the map. Yeah. Wow.
Do we have like a little cup that we can award them? Some kind of laurel around the president's neck?
Feel they should get something. But like, so Carl Widerquist immediately read this and then shared it with a bunch of other OG basic income people in a big email thread. It's just like, hey, so when are we heading to the Marshall Islands? Like beach party, let's go. And he was just super excited, and just so many OG people are excited about this. It's even like they consider this like some of the biggest news in their decades of basic income.
Right, which is like these guys have been academics and advocates and things, and they originally put together the organizations in the U.S. and so I'm just honored to be on that email chain. I'm like, wow, thanks, Carl.
So let's start at the beginning. Like, where are the Marshall Islands? Is it? It's like near Australia. Where?
Sure, I can scroll down. I got a map here. And,
good, thank you.
So I wrote up this Substack right afterwards to try to break the news. It's kind of surprising that this hasn't really broken out really largely yet. It was picked up by some crypto news sites, because like one of the options of receiving this is actually via stablecoin, via like a wallet set up specifically for the Marshall Islands. And so the various crypto news sites were like, oh, we go, like this is a huge deal, but only because this is a country using like a wallet instead of anything really to do with basic income.
Is cash also an option?
Yeah, the payments, people can opt to get direct deposits directly to their bank accounts, or they can get it via check in their mail, or they can do, this stable coin, which, again, like we talked about this before, this is a USD stablecoin. You can, spend it just like anything else. You can convert it if you want to. You can even like immediately send this on to like, friends and family or whatever with their wallets. Like it's just another option that people can use.
Well, damn, I am proud of humanity. Good job, Marshall Islands. How big is it? Like, what percentage of their cost of living? Like, if we were gonna compare it to, an American one, is it like $100 a month? I assume it's smaller.
It's $200 every 3 months. And if you look at purchasing power parity, then that basically buys as much as like $250 in the US. So that's small, from that perspective, but also based on like, their entire economy. We talk about how if we were to set like a poverty line UBI in the US, it would be 18% of GDP per capita as far as like the amount. And the amount here is around 10 to 11% of GDP per capita. And so if you look at it from, the perspective of the entire economy, it's actually a good chunk of what, most people earn as like a share of the entire economy there. So from that perspective, it's, fairly large and actually equivalent to like $750 per month in the US if we were to do the same GDP per capita amount.
It's a sort of equivalent to also sounds like is when I did the UBI calculator, the carbon tax and dividend plan, where it's like a moderately, not totally weak sauce, but not totally draconian either, carbon tax where the money goes back to everyone and funds $1,000 a year UBI. So that's like $83 a month. And I've always liked that version of it, and it's similar to sort of a carbon sovereign wealth fund, because it's basically like everyone's dividend on the natural resources and or the extraction against those resources. So it's very justifiable. And also, like, if you build, people always talk about like how we're going to get there. And there's the two incremental ways people think of. One is, start with a targeted thing to a smaller population and then add more and more people to the population, which most people's brains first go to, like start with the poor people. But what I actually prefer is starting with a universal policy to everybody and give everyone $100 a month, build the mechanism. And as soon as we're like, oh shit, that's working, let's add another funding mechanism. Let's grow it, I think it'll be pretty obvious. So there's no reason Marshall Islands can't, if the wealth fund grows or they come up with other tax mechanisms, be like, yeah, let's double down on this thing that's working, if it's working.
Exactly. There's already, mechanisms they can use to grow this. But yeah, so for those who are just like listening instead of watching, I just want to mention too. So as far as this map goes, the Marshall Islands are located like between Hawaii and Australia. It's a lot of islands over there, where there's the Micronesian islands, Papua New Guinea, a lot of those islands over there. And as far as let's get into some of these details here so people know.
Yes, I'm particularly wondering, how are they paying for it? Why did they have a sovereign wealth fund to begin with?
Yeah, okay, so the reason that they have this is they have something called the Trust Fund for the people of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and it was created in 2003 when the original 1986 compact was amended. And so like, back in the 80s, you set up this original thing, and, like basically the Marshall Islands, they could, if they wanted to, like ask to be a state. And, they didn't want that. They just want to be part of the Compact of Free Association with the United States. So that's something where the U.S. Gives them money as basically part of a strategic deal. Like they want to be able to have military access to, have military bases there, have that be also like testing grounds. They used it for nuclear testing back in the day. And so recently, after a bunch of time, they just like created a new deal. And part of that was to create this, large permanent fund. And like the US is actually kind of front loading it. And so, so here, under the 2003 terms, the U.S. contributed about $7 million per year, and then that kind of got larger and larger. And then in 2023, it was renegotiated, and now it's being heavily front loaded. So there was 200 million put into this fund in 2024, 200 million this year, 200 million next year, 100 million after that, and then it will be all like set up and like permanent. And so out of this, they're spending about 50 million per year between this UBI and the additional programs they're doing, which we'll also get into. But that's about 3%, 3.6% of the value of the fund. And that fund has grown already at a rate of 6.9% since 2004. So it's, essentially it's already inflation proof. You want to add, you're growing it at a certain rate. You subtract, kind of inflation amount. Let's say it's whatever the amount is. I don't know. We're in the U.S. We're looking at like around 3% right now. Alaska, the same way. Some of the money they get from investing in the fund, they put it back in to make sure that the fund grows to keep up with inflation. And so, this is permanent. They're not, paying down the fund each time they pay out UBI. Instead, the fund is growing each year, and then they take a slice of that growth and then distribute that to everybody.
Marshall Islands is like, what's the relationship to the U.S. In terms of, they used to be like a Commonwealth or something, and then they became sovereign? There's something going on where we have a close...
I don't know, like, if we're looking at like the, way back when, like when they first were interacting with us and all that stuff. I don't know like the history. I just really know from looking into this that, when it came to strategic interests and stuff, is we really started using it for our atomic testing with the Bikini Atoll test. So that was Marshall Islands.
And we got control of the Marshall Islands after World War II in 1944, and then signed a compact of free association with the U.S. in 1983. That's the year I was born. And then they got their independence in 1986. But they get like special entry privileges and stuff. Like they're not as much of an immigrant if they come to the U.S. or something. Anyway.
Right. Like they're not like a protectorate, they're not like Puerto Rico kind of situation. But it's like close to that, I think. So I don't think that you're born with a U.S. passport for being born in the Marshall Islands. But I think maybe if you wanted to be a U.S. citizen, it's probably easier for you to do that than you would be coming from somewhere else, I think.
So maybe the U.S. gets partial credit on the first UBI.
Right. Yeah, we definitely get partial credit for funding it, because most of the money going into the fund is actually from us. But so another part that's really interesting about this whole setup is that here, let me find this. Oh wait, sorry, I'm gonna go back up here. There's extra support on top of it. So you can look at the UBI as being individual support, and they classify it as individual support distribution. And then there's also something that classifies as extraordinary needs distribution. And so this is like a layering thing. And we've talked about this before as being like, look, we want to make sure that everybody has the UBI, but that doesn't mean that you can't add stuff on top of it. And
like disability.
That's what they're doing here. Right. And so here, those with disabilities and eligible retirees, they will get $100 per month additional to the UBI. And then there's also, they already have an early childhood program that pays to households with kids age 0 to 5. And so that kind of, it's not a universal child allowance. I thought it originally was, but it's actually, that's like a proxy means tested amount. So that goes to like poorer households, but that's additional to the EBI. And then they're also doing like a geographic thing called Outer Island Base Income Support, where like the details of that aren't like set yet, but it looks like they'll be doing like an additional basic income to everyone in certain outer islands, and those are like, you know, more impoverished islands than other ones, and those are also like ones affected more by the atomic testing and stuff. And so yeah, there's these layers that go on top of this instead of just like fully universal and nothing else.
This is really fascinating in terms of data, because everything that's ever come out of all these pilots is, there's so many asterisks. Like, we picked 50 people out of a 50,000 person population, and we did it for a year as opposed to permanently. And like, there's all the reasons where we can't really test UBI all the way. We can just kind of test like unconditional money. But now we've got this entire population of this country, and there's so many things that like, and theoretically permanently, we can test and get the data on at like a sort of a macro scale. So like the efficiency of the UBI, is it super efficient compared to other programs like we anticipate? The impact of it, does it allow both at the individual and macro level, like individual outcomes, are those getting better? Is the economy itself sort of building itself up? Because they're like
they
very
see GDP
dependent
growth
on foreign aid, and it's very impoverished. But if the whole population gets a little bit of a leg up, do they push further themselves and like sort of, you know, bootstrap their economy into more independence? Like, what happens over the next 10 years if they keep this in place and the population's, you know, benefiting from a basic income? Like, I wonder who's working on like tracking that information and those statistics.
Yeah, I think one of the ways that they can see as a success, besides like the obvious like GDP growth, poverty reduction, and stuff like that, is I didn't include this chart in my article, but they are seeing like, you know, population loss in the last like few years, where it's kind of picked up, where, you know, people are just they're losing people, and this could potentially make it, you know, more attractive to stay in the Marshall Islands instead of you know, immigrating elsewhere to like the U.S. and stuff. So that could be something as well. I wanted to cover a little bit of the crypto stuff as well, since, you know, some people that would be the most interesting to them too. Here's like a little clip too.
On behalf of the government and the people of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, it is my great honor to welcome you to this occasion. USDM1 represents more.
He's the guy who actually submitted the initial bill. So like, he's the guy who caused the UBI.
In the simplest sense, it means access regardless of geography, access to the financial system, and access to opportunity. For our citizens, that means the ability to receive funds safely and to use those funds meaningfully in daily life.
This is truly real solutions for real people, both governments and users alike.
Supporting this effort is our new national wallet. It's called Lomalo. Lo Wallet means our ocean, which will serve as an official channel for our upcoming universal basic income beginning next month.
Thank you for the visionary leadership of the Marshall Islands.
Beginning next month is just such a fun thing to hear.
Yeah, and that was last month. So he was talking about December, and the payments actually have all gone out, because all the payments were meant to go out by December 1st. So as of December 1st, you know, they officially have universal basic income in the Marshall Islands.
I mean, this is like, in my mind, this is like, you know, if we're right about UBI, this is like the beginning of a new era of human history, like the last couple of days. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited for them. So again, like Lamala is the name of the wallet. You can actually find this on, you know, the App Store, and it's set up. It's a national wallet, you know, so it's not like for every country or whatever. You get this if you're a citizen, but it's really just meant to be make it easier. You know, it's like when we talk about the need for postal banking and how everyone should have like a cheap, you know, or free, sorry, like public base bank account as far as like universal basic income implementation. This makes sense again along that route as being like, let's just, you know, make it as easy as possible and totally free for people to, you know, gain access to this and use it.
It does seem like, so there's a couple things going for it and a couple things that might be challenging. One is that it's a small population. They could get it going with a pretty relatively small amount of money, and they have the freedom to like make decisions like this. It's a bit of a, so they're in a foreign aid situation, and another confounding factor is they're very vulnerable to climate change, like rising sea waters and stuff like that. So, you know, what I want to see is as a country that needs a lot of help, be able to become a country that doesn't. But if they're already starting out in a position of foreign aid, and having this existential threat of like rising sea levels and coastal erosion and stuff like that, then do we have to remember to compare outcomes to people in islands in similar situations? Because it's like it's different than seeing a basic income like in the US, where it's like, are we bolstering the middle class? Are we boosting the economy? It's more like, are we like kickstarting like a different form of an economy? Are we, you know, like Marshall Islands, a lot of that has to go towards resilience, and also like, do you still see population loss if the weather is too big of a problem, you know? So
yeah, I mean, we could see something like if a hurricane hits like kind of that area, like maybe Marshall Islands will be observed as like bouncing back faster than, you know, an island like nation nearby. Like, I don't know, but I do think we'll see enhanced like resilience, and that's a very important, you know, thing to see.
Well, that's like an example I use a lot too, like when there was earthquakes in Haiti or you know, hurricanes, and is like, so for the Haiti one, it's a very clear example that Americans gave like $13 billion to the charities supporting it, and a year later we find out that like 11 billion of it vanished up in smoke, and the other 2 billion wasn't well accounted for or used well. And I always say, if they had a basic income, and that's kind of how I pitch commingle, like if they had a system, we could just throw money towards that, knowing it's going to go into people's pockets. There's no corruption or incompetence or whatever overwhelm going on at the bureaucratic level to get in the way of the money getting to people. How much better would that have been? So if like something happens in the Marshall Islands, that's like, if you can just give to their sovereign wealth fund and their basic income payouts, like, do they bounce back like 5 times faster than other places?
Right. Like the US, we're putting in 200 million a year into their fund for, you know, another couple of years. And so imagine if like a Michael Dell or whatever, you know, it's like, oh, here's $1 billion for your fund. That's already much larger. That's a permanent thing. It permanently boosts it. And yeah, you could do some initial like disaster distribution to help people right after that. It really does open up that option.
I was pitching for a while some like big funders on this idea of, like, I wanted to put a report together. Actually, you mentioned Carl before, Carl Whitequist. I was gonna like pitch him as a guy who could write a report on like, here's how you could do a permanent basic income in like this list of 20 different countries. Like a $10 billion endowment would permanently, like, if you
he's wanted to do that actually in for multiple areas like this.
Yeah,
like I don't recall him saying Marshall Islands, but it would have been funny if he actually had said that. But he was just saying in general, like, you know, getting it to like these smaller places.
I spent a while trying to raise the money for him to be able to do that. I was like, I just want to get, how much do you need, Carl? Like 50K, 100K? Is this like a 2-year job? Or like, how much do you need to be able to do this report? Because when one of these Giving Pledge billionaires decides to actually follow through and cement their legacy, it'd be great to plop down a packet of information for them and say, in which of these, you know, which 5 countries would you like to end poverty in? And then establish like a new way to, you know, govern. Like, that's a pretty cool legacy for someone who wants to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe someday we'll still get to do that with Carl. But like Marshall Islands is kind of testing the waters for us all, which is a
Before we move on from Marshall Island news, a couple things still about this is interestingly, there's IMF opposition. So the International Monetary Fund is like, guys, what are you doing universal? You don't want to do universal. You want to do targeted. And so you really shouldn't do that. So they're actually already basically giving the middle finger to the IMF by doing it this way. And hopefully they continue to do that. But we don't know. Maybe there'll be some political changes, and maybe they'll go, oh well, the IMF wants to do this, so we should do that. We'll see.
I kind of wonder how much of it has to do with like the fact that the U.S. is, generally going around cutting off foreign aid to everywhere, and there's some concern that like, we need to do something with this foreign aid, and it seems like if I was the Marshall Islands and I was getting all my money from the U.S. and I saw the U.S. suddenly shutting off all of the channels for giving money to other countries, I'd be like, oh crap, we got to do something.
Right. Although, yeah, they wouldn't do that to Marshall Islands just because of strategic interests. I mean, I guess
maybe. I mean, but what are our strategic interests in the Pacific right now? I mean,
but I mean that was soft power for like the USAID cuts that happened, and that was terrible, and like it did hurt us, but like we are paying them for our military bases we still even use it for missile testing. Not nuclear testing, but we still actually use it for missile testing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we don't owe them for like radiating all of their islands. Like they definitely like deserve some payback for that. But
I mean, that's a really good thought experiment. Like we're always talking about like what are the things we could turn into dividends? Like what are the natural resources? So Alaska has oil, and like some places
radiation,
have fish, and it's like there's the positive resources.
Radiated
like, hey,
soil.
we have an abundance of this good thing that we can sell, but there's also, hey, we have an abundance of you fucked us over, so you owe us, or we have an abundance of like we're located in a place that's advantageous to you. Like we have great location and all the different things that like, I want a policy that like helps everyone on the planet, whether or not they have like something they can sell. But it's just interesting to think of like what are the different sort of resources we could tap into with the idea that this is a way to pay our people.
Yeah, I was actually trying to sign up to get the Marshall Islands UBI just because I need to do research into how these apps work, and it is very close to what Commingle does. It really is just doing a
Uh-oh, you muted yourself, Josh.
Wow.
Oh, it did cut me off. I did not have the the special number that you need to prove that you're a citizen, which would be the equivalent of a social security number. So, I mean, that's a good sign that not anybody can just go in and grab it.
Speaking of validating that sort of thing, I did an update for the Commingle community recently, and one of these days we'll be able to show you all something. But like, fun news is that there's a prototype version of Commingle that's actually commingling money. Like Josh and I have signed up our accounts. We're, sending money back and forth when one of us has a better week than the other or whatever, testing it out. So Commingle is live. So our 2-person UBI has begun. And, we're cranking through updates to the point where hopefully before too long, we'll be sending invitations and for people to join us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to my account being able to be part of this as well. So, come on up.
Yep, you're next. Stand by.
Before we move on, again, one more thing about this is, so I was saying about the IMF wanting them to not do universal. The IMF also wants them to introduce a value-added tax. And, this makes less sense without a UBI because, that would be regressive and, hurt those with lowest incomes the worst. But now that they have a UBI, it actually makes a lot of sense to do a value-added tax and then actually boost the UBI further. So that would be something that I would see as like an added success. Them going, okay, we like this UBI, and sure, we have the sovereign wealth fund, but let's actually boost it, and we could boost it through this way.
Right. So long as the value added tax is sending, or enough of that revenue is going back towards the dividend, and not like 1% or something. It has to be enough to overcome the regressivity. I'm curious. So the IMF, like, what are they stating as their reason for, like, outwardly saying, like, you should target this? Like, do they have like a list of
traditional
demands?
Stuff.
Like, because people suck and we know better, like, essentially?
That you shouldn't be giving money to anyone who doesn't need it. That only the poor should get any kind of assistance. You should greatly reduce the amount of money being distributed. Like, it's just traditional IMF stuff,
Mm-hmm. It's funny, like, I remember we go through phases where people accuse us of different things as UBI advocates, and there was the whole the World Economic Forum and IMF like being accused of like being paid for and working for them, and like wanting to digitally control everybody. And it's like, no, guys, these people don't like universal basic income. Right. These are the people that do want to globally control you, and UBI is not what they want. Like, very specifically.
Yeah, they seriously, they're constantly meddling in ways of going, oh no, what are you doing? That will require higher taxes on the rich. Like, stop that.
Anything that removes control too, like, what people don't really understand, and I actually try not to say too aggressively too often in a public forum, is that UBI is power to the people, and if it's money without conditions and it's coming from the rich and going to everybody else, and there is no say and no control, it really does shift the way things can work, like how well democracy works and what people can stand up for and how much people can be controlled. It is the opposite of IMF and WEF control.
So the next thing I wanted to cover is the news out of Cook County, Illinois. And so, they had their big pilot. It was one of the largest pilots in the U.S., where they did $500 per month to, I think it was over 3,000 people. 3,000 for 2 years. And that pilot program cost $42 million. And it was, largely seen as a success, as all these pilots are. And so they debated whether they wanted to continue this in some way, which, we are constantly annoyed by how all these pilots don't end up going anywhere. And they decided to go somewhere with it. They said, all right, well, they approved $7.5 million in next year's budget to continue this kind of program and make that permanent going forward. So, like, to always put aside some percentage of their budget towards this direct cash kind of setup. And so this isn't universal basic income. This is really just like cash without like work requirements. And then they're trying to target it in certain ways. Now, it's not known like exactly how they're going to distribute that $7.5 million. It could be $500 per month to some population, like they did, or like they could do $250 per month. They could do something else. They could do anything else, and maybe it'll be for foster youth, or maybe it'll be for pregnant moms, or like whatever it is. Like, it's not known who will get the money, but the important part is they are setting aside a percentage of their budget every year to actually do this like cash without strings approach, which of course I think helps build the case for UBI.
And it's 3,000 people. Is that how big it is?
That's how the big the original pilot was. So that used pandemic money, and so that's 6 times the amount of money went into that pilot program. But this is permanent, and it's tax money. It's not federal government money. This is them saying, let's use the money that as part of our budget to actually use it in this way.
Yeah, because the original idea of all the federal money was like, try out these programs, see if they work. Here's your chance, and then so it's nice that there was somebody who's like, yes, they work. We do want to do it. As in terms of like what the purpose of a pilot was supposed to be. It was to like evaluate whether it's worthy of turning into a policy. So, yeah, good job.
And it was fun for me to see too. Like there was community involvement in this as well. Like even like union involvement. I saw like someone taking great pride. It was on Blue Sky where someone was actually like doing almost like live posting, even like talking about how the next day they're going to be there to like help make this happen, and like the union's been pushing for it, and they're going to be there to do what they can to make sure it passes. And you've got these various organizations in the area, and they're all like trying to push this to make it happen. And so this was like a real community-led kind of thing, saying, look, we did this pilot already. We really want to make sure that we keep doing this, and we should do it. So it wasn't just like a politician deciding on their own that this would be popular or something. This was really, even though the board president, Toni Preckwinkle, like she's been great on this, she's been pushing for it, but it wasn't just her decision to make. It was the entire council and stuff that to make this, and it was supported, like grassroots supported. So it was great to see that way too.
I had to go pee for a second, so sorry if I missed it. But did you say how many people?
We don't know. It's not like they're saying we're going to do $7.5 million and we're going to do $5 per month to this many people. We don't know what amount they're going to give. We don't know the total amount of people or who's going to get it. It's just that they're setting aside that money, and then they're going to do that for direct cash.
It's still not huge. So, I mean, that's one of the things that's exciting to me too, to think about is like something Commingle could help with, of like, use the Chicago area as a place to run a pilot, and then that $7.5 million could be like a catalyst and a subsidy and go further. So definitely something to keep on the radar. Also,
I expect there to be people upset in Cook County. If you're excluded from this and you're having a real hard time getting by, it's going to piss you off. Like this is one of the importances of universality, or at least some kind of like intent.
Because it's now like a tax funded thing.
Right.
You can say, like, these are my tax dollars are going towards this, right? And how come I don't see any part of it? So.
I didn't win the lottery this year, and it's like 1 out of 20 people are getting it in a given year. Like if we set it up with Commingle, then everyone's getting like any amount of people, as long as there's demand, could join, and everyone's getting like $50 a week. But then you use that $7.5 million to, like, instead of giving several hundred people $250 a week, you bump everyone up by $20 or something, so you can get the whole of everyone who wants to be involved, and it's fair.
But the next big bit of news I want to share is that there's actually a basic income bill, a universal basic income bill in Congress now. And this is actually, it's a reintroduction of a bill. So this is Rashida Tlaib's bill, and she's got a whole like package of stuff now that she's calling like the economic dignity for all agenda. And part of that is her End Child Poverty Act and her Boost Act, and also the Baby Bonus Act. But the Boost Act is what is a universal basic income. And so that would provide $250 per month to everyone in the U.S. Not child and adult. It's those between age 19 and age 67. And everyone would get that $250 per month, fully universal. And what's so smart about this is that when she introduced this in the last session, so this is not the first time she's introduced this. Her Boost Act has been introduced before, but it had a phase out. And so this time, what she's doing is proposing to use a surtax. And this is what we've always talked about in regards to like, you know, the smarter way of going about a phase out. And so what this new improved version is that it's a universal approach. Everyone gets the money. And that instead of phasing it out, there's a 2.5% tax on AGI above $30,000 for single filers and $60,000 for joint filers. And so that works out, if you do the math, can't remember exactly, but it's like around, I think, $150,000 for a single filer at a 2.5% surtax rate, such that that's where the crossover point is. So in the original plan, I think it's the same as the original plan, where the phase out, people would get $0 at that using a phase out. But now with this plan, it's that they're paying $250 per month in additional tax for a $250 per month payment, in which case it nets out to zero. So that that is the way to do it.
What was the level of income where that happens?
I think it's 150,000 using 2.5% tax.
This, I mean, I'm curious how the response is. Like, I remember when Rashida originally did the Boost Act, I was like, this is actually not disappointing. This is actually pretty good. And
yeah,
this would be just transformational. Also, the baby bond thing, I don't know how big it is, but like, I think baby bonds and UBI kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I'm less excited about the baby bond, but I love the End Child Poverty Act, and that's the other part of this. Like that is a basic income for kids, and that would be $469 per month for every kid, you know, under age 19.
So more for kids than for adults.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm not gonna be mad about it, but like, like I said, like I'd be psyched about. I'd be more excited about $100 per month from a carbon tax for everybody than about $1,500 a month for people earning below the poverty line, right? Like, I think one would get us to the brighter future much better and be more impactful. So this is like, do you have any sense of the response that they're getting for this bill? Is it like an obviously no, hell no, this is never going to happen, or is it like getting its foot a little deeper in the door each time?
I don't know. We know that we're in this environment where like everything is pointless as far as like a bill in Congress, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be introducing, you know, good bills. And this is why I consider it to be like, these are both good bills, I think, as far as the End Child Poverty Act and the Boost Act goes. I mean, they're designed well. Like I liked how the End Child Poverty Act, it looks at our poverty thresholds. And for those who don't know, you know, you've got your initial poverty line amount for one, you know, single person in a household, and it's like around $15,000. I think right now it's $15,650 or $560. I can't remember which one. And then each additional member, there's an additional, $469 per month. And so that's what she did, $5,630 annually. And then, you know, divided by 12, it's $469. So she's just saying, look, this is how we define poverty. And so every kid that adds out to a household, you have to earn an additional $469 per month to not fall into poverty because of that kid. So let's just make sure that every kid gets $469 per month. Like that is ending child poverty as we define it for each of those kids.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically how we set up the bootstraps thing, is like, how much do we did it for adults too, but basically how much do we need to give for each person to make sure they start at or above the poverty line as a household, as an individual, as whatever. That's a really sensible and sellable way to go about it, I think. And I think, you know, I'm not like a DC insider. Like, I've been watching Veep recently, but I don't really feel like I know like all the strategic stuff. Great show, by the way. But it seems to me like the timing on this, even if it is like, you know, the current administration is never in a million years going to do this, but the current administration could be gone in 2 years. And a lot of the way I think about like getting these ideas on the table, Like if this has come through Senate a couple of times and has picked up a few more supporters each time, and then
Right.
like a different wave of the political pendulum comes in 2028, maybe it's really important to have this be on the table even now when it has no chance to happen now, so that in 2028 people can be like, remember that thing, let's just do it right now. Like it's already been sort of floated through the halls, now's our chance, right? We don't
Yeah,
have to
it's
like
nice
start
to
from nothing.
it's nice to see like our representatives actually proposing good ideas, right? So
Right.
like nobody can say that they're doing their job. Like if somebody's like, well, do you have a better idea on how to fix the economy? It's like, yes, this is it. Right? Like
Right.
it's clearly
yeah,
Right.
a
that's already there.
well-designed idea. Yeah. So
Yeah.
whether or not it happens, that's just, who knows
And
how
it's
that all
like, it's
works.
something that you can actually contact, legislators about, where instead, is there a difference between saying, I support, basic income, and, being able to say to some legislator, like, why isn't your name on this bill? You should put your
Yeah.
name on this bill. Like that is like a different level of, um, engagement potential for people.
Do you think so? The other thing that's refreshing is this is so not milquetoast. Like this is bold and good and smart and strong and like forward thinking. Is there anyone else like high profile like Rashida kind of doing something of equal caliber, or does she sort of stand alone as the one with the guts enough to do this kind of thing right now?
First
She's
of all, I'd
got
have to look
support.
and see. Maybe one of you can actually look this up right now to see like just who are the current co-sponsors to this bill, because I would at least say like who are the ones who support her um, in this.
What's the full name of the bill?
It's the Boost Act. So
Oh,
you can just do like a search for Rashida Tlaib Boost Act. You should be able to find it.
Co-sponsors Boost Act.
But I know
119th
like
Congress.
Ilhan Omar is usually someone who supports this stuff. Like she put her own bill in the last session too. It wasn't for universal basic income. It was for like a phased out kind of approach. But she does like support this kind of thing, and I think she does even support universality. But for whatever reason, she wanted to do a bill that wasn't fully universal.
Okay, so I think I'm looking this up correctly. HR 1020 Boost Act. 119.
Is it 2025?
It says 2025 to 2026.
Okay, that's right.
Sponsor Representative John Molinar. It doesn't actually say Rashida Tlaib in here. Maybe I'm doing this wrong.
Maybe it's a different one.
Co-sponsors. Maybe this is just a different act. Is it HR 1020? Or do you know the HR number?
I don't know.
Let me just search around some more. This one has a Republican in there too, which makes me
that's
think
not right.
it's probably not.
That's definitely not right.
It's mostly Democrats. All right, I'll get back to you.
While you look that up, I'll also just to talk a bit about the Baby Bonus Act too, and then we can go from there to the Trump accounts and stuff. So the Baby Bonus Act would provide a one-time $2,000 payment to families with a newborn. The bonus is able to be claimed at birth or 2 months before the child's expected due date. And that's actually like usable, so it's not like they're saying here's money and you can maybe use that when your kid turns 18, which is what the more if we're talking about like typical kind of baby bonds or like the Trump accounts, like that's the way this is designed. But the baby bonus is just like actually helping parents in families like Conrad's. Like they just had a kid. If this existed, then they would get $2,000 and it would be immediately usable, like for all the new expenses and, like all the like diaper costs, especially, it's like everything else that happens as a result of having a baby. Like this is just like a boost to help with that. And so that too, I think is smart. And I prefer that kind of setup to something where you're not letting families actually use this for like the entire childhood of their kid. Oh, and interesting too that as another detail, these would be administered by the Social Security Administration. That's the proposal by Rashida. So I think that too is smart. Like if I have to choose between the IRS and Social Security, then my preference is for Social Security administering that program. Maybe the only thing I'd prefer more is actually setting up like a new basic income administration kind of thing, where that is the full focus of it. But I think Social Security handling this is certainly better than IRS. Okay, so yeah, people can.
I found some co-sponsors.
Okay.
So I had to look for the whole economic dignity for all agenda, and let's see. Legislative package is co-sponsored by Representatives Summer Lee, LaMonica McIver, Eleanor Holmes Norton, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Sri Thanadar, Bonnie Watson Coleman. Come on,
Right.
AOC, what are you doing? And Bernie. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising not to see AOC. I mean, clearly this is like a squad kind of situation.
Right. Well, I met AOC before she was known, also through some happenstance. She was running at the time, and I was in New York, and I was like doing phone calls for her. And I asked her about UBI, and she was really smart about it. And I've always thought of her as a potential ally, even when people were mad at her for like kind of dumping on Yang. I was like, she does get it though. So I keep waiting for her to like step up to the plate, but yeah, someday.
Yeah, kind of surprised. Maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason. But you would expect her to add that. But yeah, all those others, like, kudos to them for being a part of like adding their support to that, and maybe others would as well. So yeah, the next thing is, let's talk about these Trump accounts and this like boost by the Dells. So Trump set up these or said that these accounts should be set up, and so this was like one of his executive orders. There's no like legislation for this. This is just, he said, oh, we should set these up and put $1,000 into these accounts for everybody. And this has yet to be set up, but potentially could be next year. And so here's some of the details of this. So the Trump accounts, it's a new type of investment account for children. You, your employer, and others can deposit money within certain limits, and it grows tax-free as it would in an individual retirement account. And that's something that you can't use. So once you put that money in there, then you, I believe you can access it at 18, but then you could only like use it as like a retirement account still. Again, it's like confusing. This doesn't actually exist yet, but that's kind of like what they're going for.
It's also a really annoying one for him to put his name on, like just to have to bite that pill. Like, hey, daughter,
that's really the worst part about it.
Keep your eye on this Trump account. It's your Trump account. It's like, come on, man. You don't
it has
put your
like
name
an
on
official
everything.
name. It has an official name too, but like it's going to be called the Trump accounts for I don't know how long, but even though it's called something else. But okay, so here's the deal with the Dells and making use of that. So what he's going to do is this will go to children who are born between 2016 and through 2024. So this is what I mean where Conrad's baby is not included in this, because he's aiming for these older kids. Like the Trump accounts are supposedly going to be set up for, I'll find this elsewhere, but like kids born like around now and next year. So it's like Dell wants to use these accounts that don't exist yet to get money to kids who won't benefit from the $1,000, but they could potentially benefit through what he wants to do. And also, he wants to exclude those who live in zip codes where the median household incomes are above $150,000 per year. So it's like, you know, if you're looking at like red and blue counties and zip codes or whatever, then in a way, this excludes at least some blue zip codes for like, you know, being too rich or whatever, just because it's more likely, I think, to be blue than red in that case.
So it also excludes poor people in zip codes where there's more rich people.
Right. If you just happen to be located in a zip code like that, then yeah, you could be poor and not get it just because of your zip code.
God, these
I mean,
fucking
the reason
guys.
we're even talking about it though is because it's $1,000 going to every child, right? That's why it kind of made its way onto.
Right, like it's
program.
always the details, you know. Like you get into these
Yes.
details, and it's like it's not true that it's $1,000 to every child, and it's
Yeah.
not true for Dell to say he's giving $250 to every kid. Like these details.
So really,
go
he's
more
like
than that.
looking at kind of this pretty glaring hole in the program is that if you just happen to miss that deadline by 6 months, you're now like way worse off than, I mean, not way worse off, but you're missing out just because of this like unlucky luck of your birthday. I mean, is that the idea? He's like, oh God, we're going to get pushback from all the people that are like, wait a minute, why don't I get this money? So he's like,
Yeah,
okay,
I-
let's give a
I
little bit to
guess-
the people that actually, you know, are alive now, but weren't here in time, right? They weren't born in
It's-
time to get the.
Right, but okay, so here's the more details again. So here's the government will make, this is the Trump accounts. The government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 to each account for U.S. citizens born between January 1st, 2025 and December 2028. So again, Dell's money is going to go to kids born, you know, before 2024, and you know, in that window of time. You know, it was like, what was it, 2018 to 2024, 2016 to 2024. What was it again?
So this is like a sort of like hanging it over
16,
the.
yeah.
This is sort of like a threat or something to the people after that, where he's not making it like a full-time policy. He's like, during my presidency, if you have a kid, you'll get $1,000. But if you don't vote for me again and you're going to have a kid the year, like, you better vote for me if you want this to keep happening for your kid.
Maybe,
Like-
yeah. Because true 2028. But yeah, it's also weird that, so people are already thinking that Dell is going to boost $1,000 to $1,250 for a kid. But again, like this is totally different. These are different kids. And like you, even like setting up the account, I don't know, they'll have to expand your ability to set up the account or whatever, so that you can accept this. But
Yeah.
Another weird thing too. So this is like a big one to me. This really bothers me. Can I take the money out right away? No, you can't take it out until a child is 18. After that, withdrawal rules apply that are similar to the ones for individual retirement accounts. So again, this is more of like a retirement account. And you know, you have some access to it at age 18, but like it's mostly meant to continue to be invested like in the markets until you turn, you know, 65 or whatever, and then you can start like actually withdrawing from that account.
So it's not unconditional cash.
It is not unconditional
in any
cash.
way.
No.
Yeah, I'm just so sick of these fucking guys in power, like deciding
And-
what's best for us and like wanting us to like praise them for it.
And here's there's the kicker, I feel. Like, what are the investment options? You must invest in diversified low-cost US stock index funds. So this is a rich person who is getting money to kids in a way, to families in a way where they can't use it for at least 18 years, but more likely, decades really. And who will benefit from this money going into index funds? Well, it's anyone with money in the stock market. So like this is a wealth building way of getting the rich richer, really. I mean, that is the result of getting more money that no one can actually use except to buy index funds. Like this is more money in the world.
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of like artificially inflating the stock market.
Right. It's the same reason. Yeah.
Like take government money and throw it into the stock market and pretend that it belongs to these kids. And maybe it does, and maybe it won't.
Right. Like every time you see someone talking about how great it would be to actually, get rid of Social Security and do like privatized accounts where, it's like a 401k for everybody, then, that would be huge for the stock market. And so that would increase a lot of people's wealth going that route. And it's even why 401ks too. I mean, going from pensions to 401ks was also a way of greatly, getting money into the stock market.
Hashtag COG life. Do we still use hashtags? I don't know.
On rare occasion. Okay, so the next thing, I guess since we're just talking about the U.S. Bill, let's talk about the Canadian bill. And so this is Bill S-206 in the Canadian Senate. Remember too that this is the successor bill to one that went through previously, and that didn't go anywhere before that Parliament was dissolved, and so now this is making its way through it again. So everything that we said before is true about this one, where this is really about this wouldn't pass basic income in Canada. This is basically making a report for like how to potentially go about basic income in Canada, and then that report would be due like a year after the bill was passed, and then it would be up to Congress, to either follow the suggestions of the report, do whatever that they want with it, but it wouldn't actually pass basic income. But it's a good step forward to at least kind of do some research and develop a framework for how Canada could actually go about this.
There was one red flag up there that I saw. Most of it looked okay. If you scroll up a little, the whole determine what constitutes a livable basic income for each region in Canada is always kind of a red flag, because then it's just not like a universal regular amount, right? Is that what they're saying there?
Yeah, and it's weird with Canada because of the way that their system is set up. It's like not exactly the same as the states for us. There's more like I wouldn't say sovereignty, but like there's certainly more that each like area does, the provinces do. So like I don't know, you could say that setting up like a different amount for each province is something that at least makes sense and could technically still adhere to basic income, although I would still say I would prefer a universal amount, but with like top ups in like each region or whatever that the regions could do.
Use provincial taxes to bump it a little if you want.
Yeah, but also maybe that'd be part of the report. Like maybe the report would say, okay, we find that the total amount should be this, 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 and this in each of these provinces. So then maybe we could do a universal amount, and then we suggest that or mandate that this province do the remainder of each one. Like I don't know, like that could be an outcome of it.
Here's hoping. And then the word livable is always, because that's an endless debate when people are like, well, if you really are living a dignified life, you should be able to go to the movies once a week, and it should be like, some people are like, it needs to be $30,000 a year in the US, or so that's sort of an endless debate too when they throw that word in there. There's like a value judgment argument that they're setting themselves up for.
That's why they need a year to work it out, because they have to argue about those things.
Right. And yeah, they still have to argue about it even after that when it comes to like actually passing it. But at least there's some kind of report. And so, yeah, the timeline is this bill was introduced in May, and it passed first reading, it passed second reading more recently. Now it's in committee. That's where it died before, because the parliament like ended, and so it didn't go on.
They're anti-reports.
But so the Senate needs to come up with a report, and then that will lead to a third reading. And if it passes the third reading, then it'll go to the House of Commons and go from there. So
what the hell what's royal assent? Like, they don't have a monarchy. What does that mean? Like, is that just an old outdated term?
If we were to compare this to US, I think it's similar to saying, so if it works its way through the Senate, then it goes to the House, and then if the House approves it too, then it could be signed into law by the president, who could decide to veto it, even if it passes both houses of Congress. I think that's basically what this is, but I don't know enough about Canadian politics to know just how similar that is. But yeah, so
Governor General
signs a bill into law.
Is that the same as the Prime Minister? What's the Governor General?
I don't think it's the same. Yeah, but kind of the same as the president doing that. Yeah, so it's newsworthy to have reached as far as the last one did, but have I think more time to go further. So maybe this can actually reach third reading. Fingers crossed. That would be a good advancement for it to go that much further. So yeah, way to go, Canada. Good luck.
Yeah, they're
not going to win. I mean, they already lost to Marshall Islands,
right?
So they might as well just give up. Right?
Or maybe there's a fire under their asses. They were so comfortable, with obviously we're gonna do it first, probably before the U.S. and all, because we're just much more enlightened, and
yeah,
out of nowhere comes the Marshall Islands and just destroys us all.
So here's some more Canadian stuff too. There's a couple other Canadian pieces I want to get to, and so. The National Farmers Union is proposing a guaranteed income for farmers in Canada. It's pretty large too. They want an annual basic income of $50,000 a year in Canada. And they just, the Farmers Union voted at their, they passed a general resolution at their meeting just recently and said that, they should lobby for that to happen. So, it's interesting to see a union coming out in support of it. This is the Farmers Union. They've got some heft there in Canada. And also farmers are suffering in Canada, just like farmers are suffering here a lot due to tariffs. And so I think it's a good development in some way for, even though they're pushing just for them, it's still something where that could potentially be, a large pilot for farmers kind of situation. We'll see.
Yeah, I like that they're just going ahead and saying 50 grand, please.
Right.
That is what you need to live. So if you're interested in us not dying, then maybe here's what it's going to cost.
Yeah. And for them, certainly, they're farmers. They're saying this is our job, and we're just we're doing the work, but we can't actually live off what we're doing. So it could be seen as kind of a similar to, I don't know, a $20,000 basic income with a $30,000 bonus for farming or something. It's not that Canada would pass a $50,000 basic income.
Mm-hmm.
You're just having to, but it's like a minimum wage in a way, like a minimum salary for
right, and guaranteed sort of work. Regardless. Yeah.
So if I was like 50,000 plus whatever they earn, that just seems like some kind of extortion. Give us all the money or we don't feed you.
Yeah, and I think the way, again, this is a guarantee, and so I think there would be some kind of phase out rate, or some amount of, you fall below the line. They're saying that you should earn at least $50,000 a year as a farmer. And so if you earn $30,000, you're $20,000 short. And then so maybe the government, boosts that in some way. And hopefully it would do it with a phase out kind of setup. Because you wouldn't want to just like, create like 100% marginal tax rate kind of situation.
Yeah, the whole top up. I'm just amazed at when, I mean, Canada has shown proclivities for this sort of thing in the past, but lots of people where it's like, let's just top everyone up. Where it's like, someone making 10,000, let's bump them to 50. Someone making 40, let's bump them to 50, and it just creates this huge effective welfare cliff, right? Where it's like, and disincentive. Like, why work 4 times as hard to end up at the same place?
Yeah. So this is actually almost like a response to, and there's like a lot of discussion in Canada right now. And so we've talked about before how there's a lot of support in Prince Edward Islands. Like PEI really wants to do like a PEI wide pilot. So this would be, a saturation site pilot where everyone on Prince Edward Island would actually get this. And I don't know the population of Prince Edward Island off the top of my head, but they really have been pushing for this, and all parties, like this is a fully cross-partisan thing. And so most recently, they were again just told no. Really frustrating. And let's see, that's great.
It's like 180,000 people in Prince Edward Island.
And so that's like what, look up Marshall Islands too. I think it was Marshall Islands is like around almost 40,000.
I think it was like 40 or 50 Marshall Islands.
So yeah, it's like a few Marshall Islands worth of people.
Oh no, that's 36 to 39,000 people.
Right, just short of 40,000. Okay. I'm gonna find this quote, but like they said something on the lines of, like, even if they did it, it wouldn't be guaranteed to end poverty. And it's like, well, okay, like you could dramatically reduce it. Why wouldn't you do that?
We wouldn't be launched into an immediate utopia is always one of the funniest responses. Like, we can't do that. It wouldn't completely fix every problem in the world immediately. It's like, so let's do nothing, let's just, let's revel in all of this unnecessary suffering.
Yeah. So that was just a no. And I was just going to cover that.
Mm-hmm. Can we do a UBI in Nova Scotia? No. that's the whole conversation. No, sorry.
They're gonna be pissed when Commingle makes its way up there.
That's
right. They won't be able to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next thing, let's get a couple. Actually, let's do a fun thing first. Let's do a fun thing. And so, fun thing is. On the next installment of what would you actually do if you had universal basic income? Like, if we actually had a universal basic income, no, people would not do nothing. And this is Cat Subway guy. This is the
more
future
cat
adventures
infrastructure.
Of Cat Subway guy. Yeah. So this is the
he probably doesn't realize that he's our mascot for
right.
this kind of behavior.
He's one of my favorites for what would people actually do with UBI? Here we go.
It's taken me over a month, but I've just opened a new jewelry store in Cat Town. To protect all the valuables, we've hired Mr. Nice as our new head of security. Hello everyone, I'm Sheng. After working nonstop for weeks, Cat Town has 2 new locations. One is this jewelry store, and the other is underground. Let's go down and take a look at what's underneath Cat Town. If you're new here, I want to reiterate, there is no AI in these videos. Everything you see is, in fact, real. Tutu has his dojo down here. And as you can see, everything is connected by pipes and tunnels. Today, I'd like to show you our newly constructed underground location. But first, since Tutu is about to get married to the Sewer King's daughter, Tutu needs to visit the new jewelry store to get his custom-made wedding ring. Let's go with him and take a look. Tutu's ring was kept in a safety deposit box in the vault but the store also has security cameras all over to help monitor the safety 24/7. The head of security, Mr. Nice, can check everyone before they even get near the vault. And in fact, he's already caught one particularly inept burglar with his security system. Clearly not a cat burglar. In this case, after verifying Tutu's identity, he was allowed to pick up his new ring. Now the wedding may proceed. I'd like you to meet our new character, the Sewer King, owner of this underground palace, who is in fact not a sewer rat, but a much nicer chinchilla. The new jewelry store in this episode used the most lighting of anything I've ever built. The LED strips alone are over 50 meters long, and there's another 100 separate light bulbs on top of that. Actually, the hardest part was stocking these glass cases with tiny pieces of jewelry. It took me forever. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks again for your support. If you're new here, please subscribe, and see you guys next time.
Wow.
The guy is
Very
having a good
busy.
time.
That is over the top.
Yeah, it'd be fun. So where's he? Where's that? Is that like Korea, Japan, or something? Where's that
I don't
happening?
know.
It'd be funny if they had a basic income there.
Happening on
Like,
the internet.
they're like, well, poverty's been slightly reduced. We're getting some upticks in certain quality of life metrics, except for like cats and pets. Like quality of life metrics are just skyrocketing. Like, this is
Yeah,
a very
I guess
effective policy for pets.
That's one result we can look for in the Marshall Islands to see if there's any kind of pet infrastructure built.
Right.
I mean, I think it's actually true though. Like a lot of animal suffering probably happens because people gotta like choose between, feeding their kids and feeding their pet and paying their rent and like, or being there, I do think in the UBI world, actually, you reach that baseline of security. That means you can be a much better pet owner for a lot of people,
Oh yeah, for sure.
So for people who are like dog and cat and whatever lovers, like just imagine how much happier all the dogs and cats in the world would be if people had a basic income.
And seriously, too, like not only is that true for everybody, and just every pet owner, but also like this is from the canceled pilot in Ontario, where it was like an example was someone with disabilities who had a dog who like needed their dog, that was their like guide dog, and there is no like program for that, like it's not like you get some kind of pet program, as part of that. It's just that having a pet really helps with those with disabilities, and a basic income actually helps afford that pet, so it's even beyond just like, the importance of like that kind of bond you can have with a pet, but also for those with disabilities, it's actually something where it actually realistically provides them that way of feeding and caring for their dog.
I do think there is a discrepancy between our idea of what constitutes quality of life and what an animal's idea constitutes quality of life. Like, I don't think the cats care whether they've got a jewelry store or not. That's for us. That's not for the cats. That's for our amusement.
Maybe, I don't know. Cats can be assholes. So maybe there's some cats out there that are like, check this out, you poor cats. Like,
right, flaunting it, yeah.
Eat your fish bones at a dumpster is like a cartoon, whereas I'm living at large.
Right.
The next thing I wanted to cover was this is another homeless basic income program focused on those who are homeless, and this was in Oregon. This was a 2-year pilot. This provided $1,000 per month, and it did not have a control group. But it did have a very large, seemingly had a very large impact. So there's 117 young adults got this. It wasn't just all homeless people. This was aged 18 to 24. And this resulted in 91% having stable housing when those 2 years were over. And so to give you some kind of like baseline for that, it's expected, like just in general, if you're looking at that kind of demographic there, like in Oregon too, I mean, you would expect after 2 years for like somewhere around like 50 to 60%, maybe as high as 70% to be stably housed after 2 years. So, you know, if they did have a control group and it was like around 50%, then you're looking at, you know, a pretty large impact. And even if it was like on the high end, like in saying, oh, well, let's generously say that 70% of these people would have been housed after 2 years just on their own without the basic income, then a 20 percentage point improvement is still like a really hefty like improvement. So this seems like another like a wild success when it comes to a homeless basic income program.
Yeah, the headlines are starting to read like onion headlines almost. It's like Oregon pilot program giving cash to homeless sees staggering reduction in cashlessness, right? Like
yeah.
like it's almost giving homes to youth is reducing homelessness. Like it's not that big a leap between like having more money and having a home. Like if
I mean, this is the fucking argument we've been making for the last however many years we've each been doing this. Like, and I think Rutger Bregman's his TED Talk was a great one where he kind of boils it down to like, it's not complicated, you know. Give people money and they have more money. Like the solution to poverty is having more cash. What's his great line? The poverty is not a lack of character; it's a lack of cash.
Yeah.
And you give people more cash, there's less poverty. It's like, and people will like balk at like how over simple and dumb that sounds, but it's what's dumb is that we haven't actually made use of the fact that is true. You know, like we can give people. That's the thing that it's like such a surprise when it slaps you in the face. That's like how I came into the idea. Is I always sort of assumed, you know, there must be enough of a resource scarcity that we have to fight for resources. Like there's just not enough for everybody, you know? And then I read an article that was like, yeah, we could give people a pretty good amount of money and still have plenty left over. We could just do that. And that was like my awakening is like, oh shit, why aren't we? Like, and I still haven't figured it out why we aren't, other than like we're, you know, lost
really
in narratives
stubborn.
and we're misinformed and like, or we're untrusting. Like there's so many things that are holding us back from doing something that is so obvious. Like we'll look back at it in the future and be like, what the hell were we thinking? You know, why did this take so long?
Yeah. It's like when will we finally actually get there, for sure. I do like how there seems to be a consensus growing, especially on, you know, Blue Sky, where it's just like we know this works, like over and over and over again. We know this works. You can almost go viral just by like posting something about how in response to these things about like, oh, of course it worked, like we know it works. So it's good to see that it's almost like common sense at this point in certain sectors. You know, it's not like people haven't heard of it, they're still learning about it. There's actually a significant percentage of the population that is now like, I know what it is, and I know we've tested this many times, and I've seen the results many times. Why aren't we doing it? So to me, that's like a really nice advancement from, you know, a decade ago.
it's all because of you, Scott. It's because you just kept talking. You just kept posting tweets and
I mean,
writing articles.
I just went to Blue Sky to check it out because I don't go there very often. And I saw you on your page something that's very relevant to what we were just talking about. You shared an article from the Halifax Examiner. I don't know if that's a joke article or not, but it says No, it's about the Nova Scotia thing.
Right.
That says no guarantee a basic income would wipe out poverty. And your comment was no guarantee a sandwich would stop hunger pains, Stomach told.
Yeah. That's
Which is
just,
pretty great.
that's the way I think about it when I hear that nonsense.
I might use that.
All right, so the next thing, this is another, we'll just go to another pilot. This was another new results. Madison, Wisconsin. This was $500 per month for 1 year, 255 households. And this did use a control group. One of the stipulations was only for parents with kids under 18. And the results, this is another one of those where it found increased employment, full-time employment. So yeah, recipients demonstrated higher full-time employment rates than people in the control group, with a steady increase in full-time employment rates over time, with people starting at 29% full-time employed. And then by the end of it, actually 6 months even after it was over, they were at 40% employed. And after 12 months of the income, recipients were more likely than the control group to be actively looking for work if unemployed. Interview data indicates that many recipients were seeking to better balance employment and parental responsibilities. So again, these were parents, and this led to more employment and more seeking of work, with them having like the ability to, find the work that worked best for them as far as like balancing parenting.
What were the specific demographics again? Were they like new parents, or because it's interesting?
I think it was
like,
just randomly
like
selected from political qualifications. Yeah, that they were 18 and older, household income less than 20% of the poverty line, with a child under 18.
So like a lot of the times that people say, oh, people worked 1% less, the sky is falling. A lot of times the people that work less are the ones that like
Our parents,
are
right,
brand new parents, right? So that's
parents.
like we go over a lot of times when we're going through this data of like how UBI it's basically a Swiss Army knife being cash for whatever people want. So like people near retirement work less because they can bolster up and retire. People like in college like take on more debt so that they can go through school or get a car. Like it is a totally different set of outcomes for different demographics. It's interesting to see like the parenting demographic have more work, because often it's like the people who are new parents can not have to work as much and can spend more time with their kids. But maybe these kids were all like 12 and up already, and they didn't need to be home with the kids.
Yeah, and I also want to stress too, like we don't want to say that it's only a success if full-time employment increases, or it's definitely a failure if employment decreases. Like we're just pointing out that these are the results of what we saw, and it's clearly like just saying that it's definitely a thing that people work less. And like, there's even an argument that says, well, if people don't work less, then it's not high enough. Like I would just say, it just depends on each person. Like each person needs to decide, do they want to do unpaid care work at home if they're a parent, or do they want to actually, work in a job and potentially pay for childcare? Like what is it that they want to do? And everyone needs to be able to decide that.
It's not even what they want to do. It's like, what's the smartest, most advantageous thing? And a lot of times if you don't have a choice, you can't make the smart choice. Like all the people who are like pretty financially comfortable get to feel all great about how smart they are with their financial planning and budgeting, but they conveniently overlook the fact that they just have a nanny, or they like an assistant, or they hire someone to clean the house or whatever, and they have flexible schedules, and like it basically is.
Yeah, and how does welfare impact them? So again, like these people had a household income less than 200% of the federal poverty line, and so a lot of programs maybe go up to like, I think it's like Medicaid is 138% of the poverty line or something like that. So there's people who are on the other side of that line who just don't qualify for anything really. And so if you are on SNAP and you're part of a pilot like this, then yeah, maybe it won't make sense to accept employment because then you'll lose SNAP and be potentially worse off. But then if you don't get that, and this is all you get and it's unconditional, then it makes all the sense to be able to work and increase your income without losing that amount. So that's part of it too, for people to understand. Okay, so the next thing, and we'll go through like a quickie. This is another one of those the videos. I fed this into Notebook LM. This is a really interesting new study that came out. I guess I'll just show everyone the abstract first, and then I'll go back to the thing. And so this is from a program in Brazil, a really interesting program. I knew nothing about this until reading this paper. And so the deal is that adult daughters of military personnel in Brazil, if their parents were serving prior to, I think, like 2000, and then that parent opted in after this change to put in, like, I think 3% of their salary or something into this pension, then when they die, their daughter would get this basic income, and that it could be like huge, like a really large basic income. But like, as basic income it was their base. It was unconditional. They would, if they got a job, then they would keep it. It's no longer the case to be that way. So like nowadays, they've reformed it so that it's not like set up that way anymore. But this was set up that way, and so you've got this really large data set of people who are actually getting this money, and then you can actually see like the differences in regards to like impact on employment, of this amount of UBI versus a much larger amount of UBI. And they found that it just didn't really have any impact really on employment, even like when it's large. Like the largest they found was a 10% decrease. And that was for like the equivalent of $200,000 a year here, I think, in the US. So like even like with a very large UBI, it's like you don't see a decrease below 10%, which to me is like fascinating to see that even with like a huge amount that it just wouldn't go beyond that much, because people still want to do stuff. They still want to earn more.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I fed this into Notebook LM, and here's like the kind of slide.
There's this huge question in economics that sounds almost ridiculously simple.
Did it make this video for you also?
Yeah, it did make. I selected to do the video. I don't know why this is. Maybe I have to. Maybe I'll just refresh the page to make sure that it works. We'll try again. Yeah, I think it does like a good job of doing these little slide decky videos kind of thing, and it's shorter than doing the podcast version. All right.
There's this huge question in economics that sounds almost ridiculously simple. If you just gave people free money with no strings attached, would they stop working? For decades, this has been this huge debate, right? All based on theory. But what if a real-world situation could actually give us a real answer? Well, it turns out one just might. Seriously, just take a second and think about that. A big check, guaranteed, landing in your bank account every month for the rest of your life. That's basically the whole idea behind Universal Basic Income, or UBI. And honestly, how you answer that question for yourself gets to the very heart of whether a policy like that could ever actually work. And the stakes here, they're massive. You've got one camp saying this could be the key to ending poverty, creating a real safety net for everyone. But then the other camp is terrified that it would cause millions to just drop out of the workforce, wrecking the economy. It's the ultimate promise versus the ultimate fear. So, who's right? This isn't just some ivory tower debate. We're talking about a question with billion, maybe even trillion-dollar policy implications. And getting a clean, unbiased answer has been like the holy grail for economists for
Didn't
a
spell
very long time.
redistribution there very well, did it?
Well, here's the thing. It's way harder than it sounds. You can't just look at people who get government benefits and compare them to people who don't. That's because the people who need and get those benefits are often different to begin with. So it's not a fair fight. What you really need is a situation where a random group of people suddenly starts getting money. Okay, so for a long time, researchers have tried a couple of things. First, they looked at lottery winners. But here's the catch. Winning the lottery is a one-time thing. It's a huge pile of cash, sure, but it's not a steady income you can count on forever. Then you have UBI pilot programs. The problem there, they're always temporary. People know the free money is going to stop, so they don't make big life changes. Neither of these really gets us the answer we need. But then, a researcher at Princeton stumbled upon this incredible situation down in Brazil. And it is as close to a perfect natural experiment as you could ever hope to find. It's pretty much the ideal setup to finally see what happens when people get a large, permanent, unconditional income. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. In Brazil, there's a policy where the adult daughters of military personnel inherit their parents' pension for life, and it's a nearly perfect stand in for UBI. It's truly unconditional. It doesn't matter if they get married, get a job, or have other money coming in. And get this, it is huge. The median payment is almost 3 times the national median salary. This isn't some small bonus. We're talking life altering money here. So this is it, the moment of truth. Using super detailed government data, the study to track these women for years before and after they started getting the pension. So the billion-dollar question, what actually happened to their jobs and their careers? The incredible thing about this study is that it boils this whole massive, complicated debate down to just one single powerful number, the answer we've all been waiting for. Negative 0.08. That's it. That is the answer. But what on earth does that actually mean? Okay, so this number is what economists call the marginal propensity to earn, or MPE. Let me just break that down. What this means is for every single dollar of free, unearned pension money these women received, their income from their own job went down by only 8 cents. Not 50 cents, not 80 cents, just 8. And get this, the details here are even more fascinating. That entire 8-cent drop came from a small group of women who decided to stop working completely. But for the vast majority who stayed in their jobs, nothing changed. They didn't cut their hours, they didn't switch to part-time, they just kept on working exactly as they had before. But you know, that 8-cent number is just an average. And like with any average, it kind of hides some really interesting stuff happening underneath. Because when you dig into the data, you find 2 key things that determined who actually left their job and why. First up, age. As you can see here, for younger women, the pension had basically 0 effect on their work. But for women over 60, the effect was way stronger. Now, that seems kind of backwards, doesn't it? I mean, a 30-year-old is going to get way more money over her entire lifetime from this pension than a 60-year-old, so shouldn't they be the ones quitting? Well, the answer comes down to a concept called liquidity constraints. Basically, you can't pay your rent this month with a promise of money you might get 20 years from now. A 30-year-old can't just walk into a bank and get a loan against this future pension. She has future wealth, but she needs cash today. So she's got to keep working. The pension only really changes your behavior once the cash starts hitting your account. And that brings us to the second big factor, the size of the check. As the study's author points out here, for the smaller pension amounts, the effect on working was basically nothing. It was only when the pensions got really big that people actually started to leave the workforce. This points to another really important idea, adjustment costs. Think about it like this. Quitting your job is a really big deal, right? It's like a high hurdle you have to jump over. You lose your routine, your work friends, your seniority. For a small amount of extra income, it's just not worth jumping that hurdle. The boost in income has to be big enough to make that leap worthwhile. Okay, so let's zoom back out. We have this powerful new evidence. What does it all mean for that big, messy debate about UBI and so-called free money? So the researcher looked at other stuff too, right? Like, did these women suddenly start having more kids or become entrepreneurs or go back to college? And the answer for all of those was a pretty clear no. The only real change they could find was that very small adjustment in work, and that was mostly just for the older women getting those really big payments. So when you put it all on a scale, what's the verdict? Well, economists look at it like this. The gain, that is the benefit of getting money to people who really need it, is really high. And the cost to the economy, the drag from a few people working a bit less, is super low. And that's all thanks to that tiny 8-cent effect we saw. I mean, the takeaway here is pretty stunning. In this specific case, the evidence is pretty clear that the benefits of this massive UBI-style program actually outweighed the costs. That big, scary fear of economic collapse, it just didn't happen. And this all leads us to one last really big question. This amazing study from Brazil gives us powerful evidence that the fear of everybody quitting their jobs might just be, well, overblown. So if the economic data isn't the problem, maybe the real challenge for something like universal basic income isn't about the spreadsheets and the models. Maybe it's about changing hearts and minds. And that might just be the biggest hurdle of all.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Maliki Beats says the wealthy and middle class get free money all the time and they don't work any less. They just don't want the poor to have more options than cheap labor. Which, yeah.
Yeah.
That was, so you just fed in that document and the AI made that video.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. We gotta get our documentary out there before it gets better.
And the illustration is that the people are trapped inside of the safety net, where they're illustrating the safety net concept has people like struggling to escape from the net they've been caught in.
The metaphors
there's a few things it kind of misses, but besides that, yeah.
The visualizations were like they threw me a bunch of times, but like the verbal content was pretty on point.
Yeah.
Hey, that made me think, Josh, are you
Yes.
ready to share your 2-minute new video? Do you want to premiere that here? I thought it was fun.
You liked it? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's I don't have it on YouTube yet, but I'll post it. You
we can
have
watch
the
it
link
next time.
to it. Yeah, we do it next time. We're running over.
All right.
But yeah, that'll be something to.
And then, is there? I don't know if you got other stuff, Scott, but are we able to mention the new news?
Yeah, we can mention that. I just wanted to find this graph first, but I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it was just a really interesting graph that showed that broke it down by income, and so you could actually see the impact on employment by the size of the amount of basic income. And so I've seen that nowhere else, like no other pilot really has tested this range of basic incomes in like, any kind of even formal experiment, let alone a natural experiment. And so just fascinating to see that there's virtually no impact on employment for poverty level amounts of basic income. And it's only like as the incomes get much larger, do you start to see any kind of impact. But yeah, it's basically zero for.
And that's I mean, the bigger part is that, well, to me anyway, is that if you stay on that chart, like that stays under 10% drop, even at very large amounts. I've never seen anyone try to run that sort of study. And it's really interesting to see and like, it raises a lot of questions. Like, what if it's permanent? What if it's society wide? What if it's whatever? What if there's AI? There's still lots of questions.
But also these really were permanent. Is it so interesting? Like every one of these women are getting it for their entire lives. That was the data that was studied. So each of them, they knew that they would be getting it for the rest of their life. And there was still, you saw that kind of like this kind of pattern, where no matter how high the basic income gets, it just kind of tops out at like a 10% impact on the margins too. So
how long were they running it for? Like,
it was decades. Yeah. There's just
like a natural experiment. They're so much better than like ones that have been set up, because you're like, you can't accuse somebody of manipulating data.
Right.
They're manipulating the constraints of the experiment. So yeah, that's interesting.
It sort of backs up what I always say to people like that are like, well, people will just not work, and give them a chance to be lazy. And I always ask like, okay, what would you do? Well, I would work because I'm motivated. And it's basically, it's like, or people who say I would just sit at home and watch video games all day. Yeah, and they're not really thinking it through. And I generally call their bluff. I did it to John Stossel. I'm like, I don't believe you. I feel like you got more going on in there than wanting to just sit on the couch and consume for the next 30 years. You know, like you have desires, and like once you have the ability to do what you want, you're still going to want to like make your life count. And I think that's true for everybody. It's just, we're so sort of, our idea of ourselves and others is so distorted by like our role in the labor market. We lose our sense of purpose.
Okay, so here's the news. It just came out today, and yeah, we're Income to Support All Foundation received a grant from OpenAI as part of their first round of People First AI Fund grants. So it was an open call, and they're providing a little over $40 million to 208 nonprofits across the U.S. And Income to Support All Foundation is one of those nonprofits. We're very, very excited that we're essentially getting like, the OpenAI seal of approval, in regards to our work on UBI.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Definitely want to leverage this to get more of the tech bros to pay attention and be like, this is the way to do more than just talk about UBI. We're doing the work. I hope OpenAI's sort of thumbs up of approval counts for something. And also going through that list, I noticed some of our friends in the UBI world got it too, like Income Movement. Looks like they got a grant. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. A lot of people here, or a lot of I haven't even actually gone through all this because this actually just came out very recently. But yeah, like Income Movement is our friends, and yeah, Income to Support All Foundation, it's us. So really, really cool. I'm happy for Income Movement too. I didn't even notice that myself.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep, I just sent Stacy an email. Like of all the organizations that are in the area or tangentially related, like I'm glad they got through. As much as I would be for anybody. Like they do good work.
Yeah, just scrolling through the full list here. Everybody can check it out. But yeah, I guess a little bit more about this, just people know. So what is the People First Fund? So here's what their description of it is. This is for AI literacy, public understanding. So that's kind of like let's who's actually engaging with AI. That certainly makes a lot of sense. But you got your community innovation. These are community efforts to shape how AI is used locally, strengthening civic life. So again, that's like using AI. Economic opportunity, programs that expand access to meaningful, fairly distributed work as AI changes the labor landscape, including training for the jobs of the future, cooperative shared value models, and support for caregivers and local businesses. And transformative grants, board directed second wave of grants will support organizations already advancing transformative AI work across health, and will prioritize projects with potential to scale and create durable public benefit. So yeah, I mean, we're part of this economic opportunity part, and even though it's, the way this language is about distributing work, it's really about making sure that AI actually benefits people economically, and that's what we're pushing with UBI.
Also, I like to make the case that when people say work, they're usually thinking about jobs, but the engineering definition is like work is moving a mass distance or a force times distance, which is like if you're doing something you care about, if you're volunteering, if you're cleaning up your neighborhood, if you're taking care of your own self, that's all work. And giving people money allows people to pursue the work they find important, which I think one of the big takeaways from all these studies is that letting people decide what work they think is important is usually a good choice. Like their idea of what's important is pretty aligned with what we all benefit from in most cases. So we should just free them up to do that.
Indeed. Okay. I was gonna before the end look at the chat, but it looks like there isn't really anything. Just kind of asking.
There wasn't much.
If we read the chats,
I don't even know where that one was from. Cool Man Coffee Dan. You're not in the YouTube chat, so I don't know where you came in from. I tried to respond. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, this is from Riverside, because again, I shared the Riverside link this time and not the YouTube link. So we were actually encouraging people to use Riverside instead of YouTube.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Maliki Beats, Big Island Chickens, Tiago, he's a regular. Anyway, it was pretty cool. It wasn't too hopping in the chat.
It's always good to have people chiming in, though.
We'll show this one. I'm happy to see this kind of positivity going on.
Yeah.
And in regards, here's another question. Like, I don't know anyone personally from the Marshall Islands, but you did see the person, and I mentioned it in the video, who actually was the one who got the bill passed. And yeah, he would be great. I haven't reached out to him yet, and I don't know how interested he would be in doing this, but it'd be cool to have some kind of chat with him. I agree.
We could just go visit him. We could take a little trip over there and maybe become citizens, then start broadcasting from there while we receive our our Marshall Islands UBI.
If they have an easier path to citizenship here, does it go the other way? Do Americans get an easier path to citizenship in the Marshall Islands?
Right?
Maybe.
Gonna investigate.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were looking into, after Trump won, there was like a bunch of blogs and articles and stuff about all the different choices and how easy it would be, to go to these different countries, to expat, But yeah, I don't know about Marshall Islands. But yeah, so
I'll let you know next time.
We got through everything that I wanted to cover, and so yeah, thanks for everyone for listening live. And we'll see you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with others. Hopefully people can become more informed. They're basically income with the conversations we have, keep people informed of what's going on. And yeah, it was great to share some like really good news this time around too, like just huge news with Marshall Islands, and the fact that got a basic income bill in Congress now. That's pretty big news too. Like each one of these things would have been big even without Marshall Islands, so it was really exciting.
Yeah, if you're toasting tonight, Marshall Islands, Boost Act.
Do we know how people can support this act? Is there any particular thing they should be doing? So, like, writing to their Congress people. What are we doing?
Yeah, the old. It's in the House. I don't think it's in the Senate. So it would be reaching out to just your member of Congress or whatever, if someone wants to do that. Again, like realism,
it doesn't hurt to put put some pressure on a good idea.
Putting pressure, it can be good. It'd be good.
And the bigger, so the Boost Act is within the EDAA, which is like the economic something. But EDAA, if you want to look it up.
It's a package, economic dignity for all. And got a couple different things in there. But all right, yep, we're all set. See you all next time, and thank you as always.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.